These do. So don't copy it. Well, I'm non-plus by the way.
Not impressed.
Per se, lawyers always put that in, doesn't
Per
mean
se.
anything. Makes them
Oh,
pompous.
per
that's all.
se.
Per se,
That's right. What's that mean?
doesn't mean anything as far as I can ascertain.
Right now, thank you, councillors. We are resuming the meeting at 3:57. As chair of the meeting, I am advising that the amended motion that we were discussing is being withdrawn on the basis that it is invalid in accordance with regulation 17 of the local government meeting procedure and regulations 2015. Thank you. And we will continue our debate. So, any further questions? Councillor Woods.
On page 63 of the agenda,
Or the attachments.
and on page, oh gosh, now I've lost it. Page 275 of the attachments.
Yeah.
To explain, it says at the bottom of page 263. The underlying financial result for council 2023-24, excluding capital grants, is a net surplus of 1.531 million, an improvement against the long-term financial management plan of 0.133 million. This creates the cash necessary to repay the state government 1.5 million state government loan provided through COVID pandemic to assist in managing any COVID relation financial shock. So I was under the impression that this loan wasn't touched, it was just sitting there, but now it's saying here that this creates the cash necessary to repay the state government's 1.5 million. I don't quite understand that.
So councillor Wood, before I ask for a response to your question, I just need to clarify for councillors and the meeting in general that by withdrawing the motion before, we have reverted to the original motion that was moved by councillor Churchill and seconded by you, and that then does allow debate in relation to the budget estimates and questions such as yours.
Yes.
So just need to clarify that. I know councillor Edwards has a question around the budget estimates as well. So if we can deal with that, and then we'll see if there's anything that drops out of that in relation to an amended motion or anything.
Thank you.
So councillor Woods, General Manager, are you able to assist councillor Woods with her question, or Miss Blaine? I really don't mind who answers.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll defer to Director of Corporate and Community.
Thank you, Miss Blaine.
Is this working? So through you, Mayor, the loan was a cash injection at the time. So it goes into the bank. And then the operation continues and it's due for repayment at a point in time. So it now has to be taken back out. Does that answer your question? It's not quarantined.
It's not quarantined.
It's one bank account.
Right. I was under the impression that we hadn't touched it. It was just sitting there. But that's all I'm there, just asking for clarification on that.
Have we, so I suppose the question is, through you, Madam Mayor, have we drawn down on any portion of that loan, of that 1.5 million?
The money gets put into the bank.
So it must have drawn down because it's in the bank.
It's used. It just adds to the cash available because the cash wasn't very high. So it's been used and we now have to prepare to pay it back. So we need enough cash left in the bank to continue the operations once that's gone.
Right.
So we've had the benefit of having it for 3 years. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does, but
Yeah.
I always thought, or I was under the impression, and I'm happy to be corrected, that that money just sat there and was not touched. And so when it came time to pay it back, it was already there.
Councillor Wood, if I may, I was of the same impression that it was, if you like, sitting in a reserve account, much like another fund that we have. It was sitting in this regular reserve account. I have not really been under the impression that it was in our operating funds. So I'm very with you, but I now understand what Ms. Blaine is saying, that it was actually in our operating funds. Is that a reasonable summation? Thank you.
Thank you. Also on page 272 of the attachments, the statement of cash flows, in investing activities, and it's got actual 22, forecast 23, budgeted 23, and budget 24. Proceeds from sale of property, plant, and equipment is 300,000. Is that the land in Spencer Street?
That,
General Manager?
through you, Madam Mayor, I think I stand corrected. I think that was the money that was identified as vacant land that council could dispose of, and a value of 300,000 was apportioned to that. It's a guesstimate, if you like, but it's a value apportioned to vacant land that council could dispose of, and has been factored into the budget.
Right, thank you. And also at the underneath other cash items from investment activities. So actual was in 22, it was 195,321, 23 0, 24, 23, but forecasted 0, budgeted 23 0, and budget 24 is 0. So that means that, what does that one mean?
That means that there's no extra cash forecast for next year.
Yep, there's none. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blaine. Councillor Edwards, you had a question?
Yeah, just a clarification, probably more than anything. In the operating expenses, employee costs, it said the actual was 4,841,334.
What page?
It is page 270. And the budgeted for 23-24 is 5,703,000, which is an increase of 17.8% according to my school maths. Is that right? It seems like a fairly big jump in wages expenses in 2 years.
General Manager?
Through you, Madam Mayor, my understanding that it's an increase of, I don't know about the percentage, but it's an increase of
17.8.
500,000 from the previous year. Is that correct?
It's actually 862,263.
So it depends on what you're comparing here. If you're talking about budget to budget, there has been 2 years of enterprise agreement negotiation, mandatory increases that we have to absorb across 2 years. And if you're looking at the actual comparisons of actual performance, that also has combinations of vacancies that we haven't had in the business, where we haven't been able to fill, turnover of staff. So there's a combination of a few things that occur in that space.
So does that explain that near 18% increase? I'm gone from actual to budget because we can't do actual for what we haven't had yet. But it just seemed, it's just a figure when I was going through it that screamed at me that there's a huge difference there between what we actually spent in 21-22 to what we're budgeting to spend in 23-24. But maybe it's my lack of superior accounting skills, but It was,
Can I ask the same question in a different way?
You may.
be lovely, thank you.
Councillor Young.
That doesn't mean to say you understand it.
I'll have a crack.
But is the difference, that is, the budget, as opposed to actual and forecast, what we're making provision for if we fill all the vacancies we need?
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Did we not decide not to fill
You
two
can't get 'em all.
vacancies?
No, that's not the case.
I thought we weren't the OH&S and the,
We've reduced them down from 2 full-time roles to 2 part-time roles.
okay.
Are there any other questions? Any comments on the budget estimates? Okay, councillor Sperry-Minor, am dealing with the original motion. And we have had significant debate around a couple of matters. I'll put the original
you-
motion if there is
No
no,
amendment.
if there is no.
Is-
Councillor Luck.
I propose an amendment to the original motion. I would propose that the council, one, approves the Glamorgan Spring Bay Council 2023-2024 budget estimates as set out in attachment 1, consisting of the profit and loss statement, statement of financial position, cash flow statement, capital works detail and loan summary. 2, they adopt the rates resolution for 2023-2024 as per attachment 2. 3, note that the long-term financial management plan financial modelling for the next 10 years was reviewed during the development of the 2023-2024 budget and shall be reviewed further to confirm strategic targets ahead of finalisation of the 2024-25 budget. I would add that 4, that we give an undertaking to ratepayers that the mowing of grass verges throughout the municipality that have already been removed will be reviewed throughout the 2023-2024 year, and that the community will be consulted to read the findings. 5, that the council investigates insurance risks and liabilities and advises ratepayers associated with mowing council verges.
Is there a second to the amendment? Councillor Edwards. Thank you. Councillors, given that we have had significant debate around this, I am prepared to put the amended motion to the floor to test it. Unless there is some other burning questions that you wish answered.
Just one quick comment. I'm just very
Edwards,
disappointed that the option 5 had not been dealt with earlier,
that option 5, sorry.
was not dealt with earlier, and so an answer could be given.
I'm sorry, councillor Edwards, I can't hear you.
That option 5, that the insurance issue was not dealt with earlier, so a succinct answer could be given to the ratepayer.
Thank you. Thank you. So on that basis, I will push the amended motion. All those in favour? Those against? Councillor Churchill is against. Councillor Young, where are you sitting?
Oh, I voted for because I think it's harmless to the
Thank you.
actual motion that's up on the board.
Thank you. So the amended motion is carried 7-1. On that basis, I will put the motion as the substantive motion. Does it require reading again, please?
Yes.
Does it? Beg your pardon? It is up there. So it does
It's
require.
going to be up there.
Does councillor Luck need to read the motion again, or can I just put it as the substantive motion? is my question.
The mover should read the motion again.
Yes, no, Mr. Woodward is saying,
Well, I don't think there's any harm in reading the motion again.
okay,
We can do it.
councillor Luck, then this now becomes the substantive motion. If you would be kind enough to read it again, and councillor McQueenie, I think you seconded. No, councillor Edwards.
Yep.
Councillor Edwards, it will require further seconding. So councillor Luck.
That council, 1, approves the Glamorgan Spring Bay Council 2023-2024 budget estimates as set out in attachment 1, consisting of profit and loss statement, statement of financial position, cash flow statement, capital works detail and loan summary. 2, adopt the rates resolution for 2023-2024 as set out in attachment 2. 3, note that the long-term financial management plan financial modelling for the next 10 years was reviewed during the development of the 2023-2024 budget and shall be reviewed further to confirm the strategic targets ahead of finalisation of the 2024-2025 budget. 4, give an undertaking to ratepayers that the mowing of grass verges throughout the municipality that have been removed will be reviewed throughout 2023-2024 year, and that the community will be consulted to read the findings. 5, the council investigates the insurance risks and liabilities and advises ratepayers regarding mowing of nature strips.
Thank you.
Nature strip, is that, is it?
Sorry, did you add something?
Regarding mowing of nature strips.
Yep. Yep.
Seconder? Councillor Edwards, thank you. Is there further debate on this, or shall I put the motion?
I'll move the motion.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you very much for the debate. It's been, I think, very worthwhile, and hopefully will give our community some assurance of how we've dealt with this matter. Move on, agenda item 8.2 is the fees and charges. There is a recommendation on page 69. Oh, Deputy Mayor, thank you.
I'll move that council receives and adopt the fees and charges registered in attachment 1 to this report for the 2023-2024 financial year.
Is there a second, please? Councillor Churchill, thank you. Deputy Mayor, do you wish to speak to it?
Just briefly in that, for the public that may or may not be watching, but it's basically the increases have just been along the lines of the CPI, and that's not unreasonable, and it's prudent to do. So there's no big rises that ratepayers need to be aware of. But is my
Councillor Churchill,
understanding.
oh, sorry. That's it. That's it, Deputy Mayor, thank you. Councillor Churchill, do you wish to comment?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to say that I fully support the Deputy Mayor's comments. Thank you.
Councillor Woods, did you wish to make a comment about the marine infrastructure fees?
Yes,
I think you did.
I think I might have touched on it within but I just wanted to say that I think I may be able to speak on Councillor Edwards's behalf, that we did bat hard for the less fee rise, for the berths at the marina, and council officers took that on board and listened to what we said and came back with a favourable increase of half of CPI. So, you know, it's a win-win. In my thoughts, it's a win-win situation for all involved, and I appreciate the work that the officers did to get us to that point.
Thank you, Councillor Woods. Are there any other
I just-
comments, Councillor Edwards?
I second Councillor Wood's comments. It was much appreciated from the Infrastructure Committee of the offer from the officers to keep that to an absolute bare minimum.
And if I can, we do have to realise too that it is tough times for everybody, but it is tough times for council as well. We have to be mindful that we can't always look favourably at, you know, no rate increases or fee increases. So, you know, this is a good outcome. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions in relation to fees and charges? If there isn't, at this juncture, I would just like to acknowledge the work that the staff did do around fees and charges, bearing in mind, as Councillor Woods has alluded to, the cost pressures that everybody's facing at the moment. So thank you for that. On that note, I will put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Agenda item 8.3 is the motions for the Local Government Association of Tasmania LGAT meeting. I note that the General Manager will be the voting delegate for this for this particular meeting. I'm not able to attend on this occasion. There is a recommendation on page 71. Councillor Woods, thank you.
Thank you. I'll move that council notes the local government of Tasmania, June 30th of June, 2023 general meeting and supports the voting delegate voting in favour of the following items listed for decision. Motion, restrictive covenants on use of land and property. Council is Clarence City Council. And the motion is that Legat lobby the state government urging legislative changes to outlaw the creation of covenants which place restrictions on use of land and property for A, public, social or affordable housing, or B, tenants or occupants based on their source of income or social or financial circumstances. And the other motion is short stay. Local Government Association is the mover. That the Legat convene an expert reference group from member councils to develop recommendations for the sector to consider on what further data and support is required to assist local government in responding to the housing crisis, what changes are required to manage short stay accommodation contribution to housing availability, local amenity, economic development and equitable rating. And the third dot point is what tools are available to encourage owners of unoccupied dwellings to make their properties available as long-term rentals.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconder? Councillor Churchill, thank you. Councillor Woods, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
No. Councillor Churchill, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, I think, look, both of these motions are worth our support, I feel. Certainly the issue of short stay accommodation needs some research and some development. And I think it's substantially considered in the motion. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
I'd just like to say, I'm caught between the two motions, actually. I support one. I'm not necessarily sure I've got enough information to support the other one from Clarence City Council. And it is around their background comment on it, which is just a 4-dot point paragraphs. I just wonder whether it's enforceable to start with, and I wonder what other unintended consequences it brings up from a legislative point of view. I'm not quite sure that's been so well thought out, but I certainly support the short stay investigation. I'm not sure where that leaves me.
Councillor Edwards,
I'll put half hand up.
sorry.
I have grave concerns over both of them. The tenants or occupants based on their source of income or social or financial circumstances, is that saying that you don't have as much choice in who rents your property? Or is it not? And I have a big problem with this short stay accommodation being the root of all evil, because I don't think it will help the housing situation one iota.
Councillor Young?
I don't support the motion, not for the reasons, all the reasons that the two other speakers have said. The idea and respect of one outlawing certain covenants, there are extreme practical difficulties in determining what is or isn't social housing, what starts off as ordinary housing, does it turn out to be social? Does social housing later on cease to be social housing? And if it's based on source of income, who's going to go around and knock on, find out what their income was that week? It just can't work. And it'll create a great tangle, I think, for councils and planning schemes enforcers. And we are under an obligation to enforce the planning scheme. The short-term stay, I have the same view as the professor that was reported either in the Australian or the Mercury in the last 2 weeks. that he doesn't think it'll make any difference to long-term housing. I do support the provision of long-term housing. I think it's critically important. If we have a whole lot of people living on the streets, old blokes like me won't be able to walk down the street without the risk of being bashed up and have their money pinched if they can find it. So I do know that if you tax the people that provide short-term Airbnb style accommodation, it'll reduce the number of tourism accommodation for families in our area, and our East Coast tourism, which we support to the tune of tens of thousands a year, say that 50% of our business's income come out of tourism. So from our point of view, be cutting off the nose to spite our face. And another proposition is that if someone's full enough, I think there's a huge risk in building houses to try and earn income. When there's no inflation, you're lucky to break even on a house rent. And I just go back I've got an economic memory back to 1959 when I did economics at matriculation. And I was 16, so that doesn't make me wise. It just means I've got an old memory. And that if you make it difficult for people to use their house, some of them won't build one. And it won't be many that won't build. Many that will suddenly find a penalty imposed on their Airbnb letting may continue to Airbnb, but many won't. Many people Airbnb to help fund the operation of their shack, to pay the rates, the taxes, the mortgage interest, all of which are going up. State government taxes going up the most, and they don't call it that, they call it levies. If you change the name, they hope that the idiots out in the community won't understand what the hell you're talking about. And seeing some of the gobbledygook I've seen come out of Hansard of recent times, I couldn't understand what they're talking about either. But the end result is that many of those people will sell their houses into the residential market. They won't let them out for Airbnb. They'll let them out for, or they'll sell them for people to buy. And most of those people won't long-term let them.
Exactly.
So I don't think either are practical in solving what is, as the English judges used to call it in the 50s and the 60s, a piece of social problem. You can't fix it by this sort of woolly-minded thinking. So I'm against it.
So Councillor Young, I guess the thing that my comment around this is that this is about this council who is, has a similar problem with the Airbnbs as every other local government sector. I think this is a move by Clarence City Council to try and get it sorted out in government, because we have this wonderful thing called PD6, which also has a bearing on that's Planning Directive 6. Which I know you love little
Acronyms, I don't understand them.
no, with PD6
It's
is
not a
Planning Directive 6, councillor. I think this is just I don't necessarily agree with the outcomes that may come from this, but I agree with the process of Clarence putting this forward to LGAT so that LGAT can lobby the government in both situations to get a definitive answer from the government around short stay, because all councils are in the same bind, if you like, around short stay. I agree with Councillor Edwards. I don't think anything they do to short stay accommodation, whole of house short stay accommodation, is going to put more homes into the rental market. I think that is something that the crystal ball is very cloudy in relation to that. So I guess the bottom line is I am supportive of our voting delegate voting in favour of these two motions that are going to our association, to LGAT, to follow forward. I'm just not necessarily in favour of what the outcomes might be.
Sorry,
Deputy
Madam
Mayor,
Mayor,
no, go for it.
is there any, and this is a question, is there any potential to split these motions into two, so we can vote on each, either or?
So you, Madam Mayor, for the purposes of, yes, if there's going to be a difference in the voting, yes, absolutely, because it's two separate motions.
The general manager, or the general manager as our voting delegate needs guidance from
Mhm.
council in relation to how to cast Glamorgan Spring Bay Council's vote at the LGAT meeting. Yes, councillor McQueenie?
Just on, not on that particular issue, but generally, I don't read the first one as anything more than advocating for the idea
Exactly.
that there isn't public or social affordable. I completely agree with Mike that I think it's utterly unimplementable, that there could be control, but any pushback on getting gated communities and effectively punishing access to housing for people who are escaping violence or are disabled, I'm all for it. So in so much as it's just about urging that they think about it, I don't see any issue with number one. Number two, I think it's interesting that their expert reference group is from member councils, because I would have thought that the expertise around this exists on looking at what's happened in all sorts of different places. If anything useful is going to come out of it at all, not just what we're all doing. So I've got no issue with supporting the idea that people should go in and look at what's happening around things. And again, it doesn't say that it's holding anybody to anything. But it would be interesting to say across Australia, different jurisdictions are managing it differently. So I don't hold great hope, but I see no harm.
Deputy Mayor?
Sorry to jump back in.
No.
Just with the first motion, and I totally understand Councillor McQueenie's point there, but the problem I have with the first one is that it's urging legislative change to outlaw the creation of covenants. I'd like to see that to be investigate or look at some way, but it's pretty definitive. It's outlaw. We're committing ourselves to allowing someone to go in and lobby on our behalf to outlaw covenants as that, which is then listed underneath what they're outlawing. And as a planning authority, that will cause us a lot of problems. We've got enough implementations in the planning authority now, I think. But that's just my
No, that's right. I guess
personal thoughts.
I guess the other side of this too is there's absolutely no guarantee that it will go to the LGAT meeting and be passed. It might, that particular motion from Clarence City Council might be refused. It might not.
If they think we support it, by supporting it, it gives it more credence, doesn't it? That's why I'm letting know.
If I may, just that for councillors, new councillors' information, Glamorgan Spring Bay has only one vote.
Yes.
Whereas other councils, it's a weighted vote. So, you know, our vote really doesn't count
So,
much.
so we can abstain from voting if we wish. And all that would require is an amendment to this motion that. Yes, I know, councillor Turgid. An amendment to this motion that simply says council notes the local government association of Tasmania 30th of June general meeting and requests the voting delegate to abstain from voting on the two proposed motions. Would that work?
That's correct, Madam Mayor. So there's three options for council. We either support the motions as they are, support one and perhaps not the other. We can, or we abstain on
Okay.
both or
Okay.
one.
Move an amendment then.
But I need, what I need is a position on each of those motions from council.
So I'd like to move an amendment which is going to be in effect.
We might, I think,
Can I
didn't
do
you
that?
put this
I think I did.
motion?
Yeah, sorry.
No,
apologies.
No, I
no,
Did you- did I
Councillor
second it?
Woods, Councillor Woods and Councillor Churchill
Okay,
is the
sorry.
mover and seconder.
That was minutes ago.
You can get lost with all this stuff.
And sorry, councillors, Madam Mayor, you can't, and obviously you can't amend or change the motions.
No, no, no,
They
you
all-
can't amend or change the
No.
motions, only
Um,
what our vote might be,
Can I just ask a question before I
yes.
perhaps potentially do that? Does this mean we have two amendments or because we can vote on each motion separately? Do I have to move it kind of twice? Are we allowed to do that?
Not the motion back.
I don't know why it's in there as two. It should be in there as one and one.
Oh, we'll just put it up and see how it goes.
Two halves make a whole.
Mm,
Those motions are in two halves.
mm.
Which half do we support, which half do we don't? Or if we knock back the motion, does that mean the delegate can do whatever he thinks? Or he's not allowed to do anything?
Abstain.
In hindsight, through you councillors, through you, Madam Mayor, in hindsight, that should have read as two separate recommendations, because it's under one recommendation and a council has effectively already moved and seconded that. But it doesn't stop me being able to vote based on the opinion in this room. On each of those.
So then I'm going to defer to Mr. Woodward. I think there is a way that the original motion can be withdrawn. Mr. Woodward, the leave of the meeting, and we start again with the motion rather than go through the whole process of amendments and
Groundhog Day, isn't it?
You can ask.
at the risk of sounding flippant, I would really like to get home in time for dinner today.
Vote on it as it is.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I'm going to withdraw the motion as it is, and somebody can move another motion.
So we need with the permission of the meeting and with the permission of the seconder. So is that sufficient, Mr. Woodward? You are frowning over there. I think it is. I think the councillors, I think the councillor who moves and second can seek the lead
No, exactly.
of the meeting to withdraw.
We can just vote
So,
on it as it is.
Councillor Woods, I think the wording is that, forgive me for going this way, but the wording is that you seek leave of the meeting with the support of your seconder to withdraw the motion.
Did you hear that,
Yeah.
Miss Murray, Miss Kerr, sorry?
Yeah, I think that was it.
Is that what?
Fairly word.
Yes, yes.
To withdraw the motion, yep.
Pardon?
Yeah.
The consent of the seconder, we have the consent of the
Rob's got that.
seconder.
Mm.
Do we have to put that motion, do we have to put that as a motion? Or is it just a notation? I think it's just a notation in the minutes, so, right, so just to get it clear, councillor Woods, you have sought leave of the meeting to withdraw your motion with the support of your seconder. The motion is withdrawn. We now have the ability to take a new motion. Everything there?
It's all up to
And
you.
it's not amended, it is a motion, okay?
So I'll move that council notes the local government of Tasmania's 30th of June 2023 general meeting and supports the voting delegate voting as directed by council on the following item listed for a decision. Motion, restrictive covenants on use of land and property, council, Clarence City Council, that LGA lobby the state government urging legislative change to outlaw the creation of covenants which place restrictions on the use of land and property for A, public, social and affordable housing, or B, tenants and occupants based on their source of income or social or financial circumstances.
So what is the direction of council? Are you moving that the
I'm
voting
moving we
delegate is
vote.
voting against?
No, I think we have to find a position as the councillors. Because he's a
Mm.
delegate, it's not
Okay.
the general
So we don't
managers.
decide whether we support
We
it.
need to vote on that motion, whether we support it or whether we don't.
Okay,
And that will be the direction that the general manager takes to that
I
meeting.
need a seconder for that, for the deputy, councillor Woods, thank you. So, Deputy Mayor, do you wish to add anything?
No, no.
Right. So the motion is support or otherwise?
You, Madam Mayor, yeah, well, the deputy mayor was.
Support.
Yeah, as I understand it, yeah.
You want to support?
Uh,
No.
well, what was the wording I used? I left out,
It's there.
it's urging legislation change to outlaw, but, we've got to make a decision whether we are supporting it or not supporting it. It supports the vote as directed by council. So we'll know what that direction is when we vote on it.
Mm.
That direction will be a vote of council.
Deputy Mayor, I'm sorry, I'm just a little bit confused
It's all
here.
a bit-
Perhaps it's getting late, but I'm not sure how to put this motion to determine what council's position is on it.
Do we support it or don't we support it?
Can I make a suggestion?
You may.
And this is about procedure, not about the motion, but I think what the deputy mayor is saying, that we vote on that first motion
Yes,
and then using the same words again, we vote on the second motion as a separate motion. Is that,
Yes.
is that what you're trying
Yes.
to?
Yep.
Okay, good. That's that.
Put the motion.
Exactly. So this will get repeated down here for the second motion.
So you need to get rid of.
I don't think it's very clear though on, for me, it's not very clear on what I'm actually voting on. Am I voting
Are you going
for,
to?
am I voting for the voting delegate to vote in favour of the motion or against the motion? Because that's the key to it.
That'll be what we decide here if we.
That's what you got.
I know, but I understand that, councillor Edwards, but what I'm confused about is putting that motion as it's there. What is exactly,
Well,
Deputy
it-
Mayor, what is the question?
Yeah. I can
Are we-
answer that.
Yeah,
Where the guts that with the LGAT lobby is urging, urging us to urging legislative change to outlaw the creation of covenants. So they're asking whether we want to urge that body
mhm.
to make changes, outlaw the creation of covenants. So they're asking for the affirmative to lobby that. So that's what we'll be voting on. Do we support that position? Do we want them to make that lobbying on our behalf? And if we don't, we will vote against the motion.
What it really needs to say then is support the motion by Clarence City Council. And for the second one, support or
Yes,
not
I think-
the motion by the gate.
We've only got the motion, the first bit in front of us at the minute.
Yes, I think that's the simple question. Do we support the
You-
motion by Clarence City Council? Yes or no? That then gives the
Yep.
direction to the
Yep.
the general manager as to how he should vote.
Yeah.
But does that wording
Yes.
achieve that?
Yes.
Does it?
It does, because I'm just trying to think of the words.
He knows what we mean anyway.
I'm,
You make it up anyway.
what is it when I want it, the motion to be put?
Sorry?
Who
What
said
say the
that?
motion to be put?
No.
Mhm.
No, you're right. Okay.
Just put the motion. Is basically it and see what.
But again, I
But if-
come back to the point, the way it's worded, I can't, in terms of the motion, see what the direction is for the general manager or the voting delegate.
Can I say, if the motion is voted on unanimously, that means that the general manager votes in favour of it.
Okay.
In
If,
favour of urging the
yeah,
legislation.
Right.
if it is in the, if it is not carried,
Mhm.
that means that the general manager doesn't vote, support it.
Okay,
So that means council doesn't support it.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
It's a
clarifying that for me.
long day.
It's been a long day, as you have alluded to, councillor Woods, and I'm
Very, very
afraid I
short.
just got a little bit lost in the,
Yeah, no,
in the
yeah.
debate,
I'm not even.
and I apologise for that. Okay, so if there is no further debate on the first motion that is in relation to Clarence City Council, I will put the motion. All those in favour? councillor McQueenie, councillor Luck and councillor Churchill. Those against. Councillor Young, councillor Woods, deputy mayor, councillor Edwards and Mayor Arnold. Thank you.
Motion's lost.
The motion is
Hmm.
lost. So
Which means the general manager votes no.
for the
That's
short
correct.
stay one.
No. it's
Short
been
stay one, I'm
abstain
happy to move that.
On that motion.
That's
Sorry?
happy to move that.
You'll move that
See
one.
if I can make
Charlie?
this one any worse.
Okay,
And we're just got to be careful we don't get convene, so it's the affirmative again, isn't it?
I think one's pretty good.
Supports. So if we can use the same wording,
Yeah.
please, Jasmine. Kerr, I mean, sorry. As we just used
Yep.
up the top,
It is.
it is, yeah. And perhaps if we can just clarify a yes vote in the affirmative allows the general manager to support that motion, and a no from council would allow that not to be supported.
That short stay question, is that the one?
Yeah, the short stay question.
Yeah.
We've now got a motion before the chair on that.
Would you like to read
It's a
that?
question I'll ask.
Do I need to read it?
Yes, please.
Yeah, the council notes the local government of Tasmania's Tasmania 30 June 2023 general meeting and supports the voting as directed by council on the following item listed for a decision.
Okay, do
And
I-
you want me to read it?
I
No.
think, no, that I'm government associate, that's fine. Is there a seconder for that motion, please? Seconder, councillor Churchill, thank you. Is there any further questions or debate?
I just really worry about that motion. Level 3, encourage owners of unoccupied dwellings. Does that encourage them in a negative or a positive way? Does it give them a
What
rate
line is that?
rebate? The last point. Does that give them a rate rebate or a tax if they don't?
I think in
It's-
the, I think in the big scheme of things, the most pertinent part is that LGAT convene an expert reference group to look at those 3 dot points.
Yeah, but that.
Yeah.
yeah.
We should all be on. Because
Yeah.
we're.
Okay, I'm mindful of the fact that it is getting quite late, councillors, and we do have some, a closed session, council to deal with after this, so if, with your indulgence, I will put the motion, all those in favour. Those against, councillors Young and Edwards are against, the motion's carried 6-2, thank you. Agenda item 8.4 is a community small grant application from the East Coast Anglican Church. Councillor Woods, thank you.
I'll move that council approve the application for community small grant funding of $1,500 to the East Coast Anglican Church to support the Lunch with Mates program.
Do I have a seconder, please?
Seconder.
Deputy Mayor, thank you. Thank you. Councillor Woods, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I need to say that I have put 1,500 there due to the fact that this is a really good initiative within the community. There are a lot of, seems to be a lot of mates that turn up at the table. And I think this is actually the first time that it's come to council. So given that we're at the end of the financial year, we've got a little bit more to splurge. Give them $1,500.
Are
Yep,
there
well
any
done.
other questions for Councillor McQueen?
Will they drink the older wine? That's what I'd like. $500.
With that money that remains for special grants, and there are some grant applications that are sort of on hold, and for instance, the ballet bars for the Tribunal Hall, small grant application, which can't be actioned because key staff are away. How do we manage the disbursement of that, or does it just carry over?
Very good.
So for those that have applied during this annual year, they will be applying already. Will they be applying for next year's grant allocation?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the budget stays, first of all, just talking about the budget. The budget has changed in this year, this coming year. The bottom line stays the same. It's a total of 42,000 for all of our grants.
Yep.
But that's split between what council calls events and small community grants,
Mm.
which is what we're talking about here. What we have found over the last 3 years is exactly what we're finding here.
Yeah.
A surplus at the end of the financial year in the small community grants, and we've run out of budget on the event side of things. What it is showing to us that there is a need to spend more of that 42,000 in the event side of things and less in community small grants. So as from next year, that is going to be, that is reduced to 15,000, and the events go up by the remaining amount. There is any live application,
Yep.
when I say live application, that's currently in progress.
Yep.
Yes, that'll be considered in the new financial year.
Right.
The one that you do mention, there is no application that I'm aware of. I'm aware of the intent.
I understand there has
yeah.
been one
Oh, okay.
some months ago.
Right, okay. Well, I haven't seen that.
Are there any questions or comments in relation?
Thank you.
to this? I just have one comment, and that is that I actually had the pleasure of joining some of the people just recently that do go to lunch with mates, and the camaraderie, the support for local people who may have been feeling a little bit isolated, or they're living alone, or whatever, was just amazing. And over and above that, I also understand that if they learn of anybody in the community who may not be quite as mobile as they would like, they will provide a meal following their normal lunch with mate day. So it is something that I thank Councillor Woods for her consideration in raising the amount. So thank you. If there's no further comment or question, I will put the motion. All those in favour? Those against is carried unanimously. Thank you. There are no notices of motion at number 9. Sorry, what did I do? Oh, I'm sorry. We do have the late agenda item. Thank you, Councillor Woods. Agenda item 8.5 is the late agenda report, the insurance renewal. General Manager, do you wish to speak to this before I seek a motion, or should I seek the motion first?
Seek the motion,
I'll
Madam
seek the
Mayor.
motion
and I'll-
first. Thank you. Do I have it? Councillor Churchill?
I move that council authorise the general manager to accept the proposal from Jardine Lloyd Thompson for insurance policies renewal for 2023-24 to cover community liability, councillor and officer liability, motor vehicle, crime, personal accident, corporate travel, workers' compensation, and JLT discretionary trust and cyber liability. And 2, authorise the general manager to approve payment of the associated premium totaling $416,504.25 for 2023-24.
Madam Mayor, can I just
Seconded.
see if I heard it correctly? After a JLT discretionary trust, there was another item inserted.
Cyber liability.
So,
Cyber liability, did I hear you say?
The cyber liability, as I understand it, Councillor Young, the cyber liability is just some wording that was missed in the original recommendation.
I'm
And it's been clarified
clearing it.
now.
I just want to know whether I heard it or misheard it.
No, you actually heard it correctly. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor McQueen, thank you. Councillor Churchill, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I will briefly, if that's okay, Mayor. The cyber liability, it's good to see that coming in. I really have had private concerns about this, I guess, for some time that I haven't expressed, and it's bothered me that we haven't had that. And I think it's worthy of note that the in the accompanying documents, it's pointed out that the large increase in motor vehicle insurance is because it is now covering more motor vehicles than it had in previous policies. I think those were the only 2 points that I wanted to make. Thank you.
Just before I answer any more, the general manager just want to make a point as to why this is a late agenda item. He phoned me 2 or 3 days ago about it. So general manager, do you want to just clarify that for
Thank-
council, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is the timing of the notification from JLT, and it's unfortunate that it only came in. I did phone the mayor after we got it, was probably 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago. Would like to have put this to council on a normal agenda, but unfortunately that is what it is. And I think we've got to just bear in mind that JLT have several plants around the place probably, and that is the timing in terms of notification and council ordinary meetings would vary from council to council, obviously.
And I'm sure that councillors noted in the agenda and the agenda item that it is simply on our agenda because the general manager's delegation to approve invoices is limited to $250,000. So that's why we need it.
Point of order, Madam Mayor, do we have a seconder for this motion?
Yeah, I think so. I believe we did.
Yeah.
Councillor McQueenie?
You didn't say anything, because I can hear.
But I did say, councillor McQueenie. Right, if there are no further questions or comments on the late
I
agenda.
would like to raise a comment.
Yes.
At the time that this motion, if it is passed, is put into operation, is that not the time to ask the underwriter or the broker to extend cover for liability for people that cut council lawns on the roadside verge, to cover people that cut council lawns on roadside verge? That would seem to me to be just the time to ask about that form of cover.
So councillor Young, as I understand it from the general manager, that we are seeking advice around that. And I know Ms. Blaine has long and involved conversations with our insurers over any manner of things. So I'm sure she will take on board your
I always
comments.
trust insurers do what's in the documents and not a
If I-
word beyond the document.
So
So I'd
councillor
like to
Young,
see any
I may-
document that gives us reassurance.
if I may.
I used to
no,
advise,
And there's nothing further, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, the motion's carried. Thank you. So agenda item 9, there are no notices of motion. Agenda item 10, there are no petitions. Agenda item 11 are questions on notice by councillor. There are none. 11.2 are comments or statements by councillors. Are there any comments or statements to be made by councillors? I just have one small one, and that is I would like to acknowledge the deputy mayor for taking over the role of acting mayor while I was in hospital. And I would particularly like to thank councillors, staff and the community for their concern about my recovery. Some community members have even spoken to my husband, so I'm very grateful for their kindness. Thank you.
I'd like to say to the deputy mayor, thank you for not causing waves during the time.
Well, councillor Young, he did tell me he was going to try and create havoc. So.
Not at all. Yeah.
Agenda item 12 is the confidential items in closed session. There is a recommendation to move into closed session. Councillor Woods, thank you.
Council moves into closed session at, oh, it's that bad.
4:55.
4:55, thank
Thank
you.
you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor McQueenie, thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So Ms.
Something
Kerr to tell us whether we're off air.